All right. Happy Thursday to everybody. We are going to be doing another Museums from Your Home live stream today. We are going to be streaming from both Facebook and YouTube. So if you want to watch this, you can either watch from the Alabama Museum of Natural History's Facebook page, which looks like is live now. And you can also go to the YouTube channel, which I'll put up a little link there if you prefer to watch on YouTube, which some people I know do. You can go to youtube.com/UA Museums. And I'm going to do a quick check to make sure that it is live, which it does look like that is the case. Everything is working properly, which makes me very happy because I'm super paranoid. But it does look like we are live and good to go. We are going to wait a little bit because we're having a little bit of a connection issue, but we're going to be talking about trees today. So if you have any questions about anything regarding trees or the Alabama Arboretum, feel free to ask them in the comment section. We will be able to see and read your comments and hopefully be able to answer your questions. So if you have any questions or comments, feel free to ask us. If you are interested in any of the live streams that we do, you can go to museums.ua.edu/museums from your home, and that'll be a one-stop shop for you for all the things that we're doing here. So feel free to visit that website for any questions you might have about our initiative here. All right, so I think we're ready to go. So I'll do a little quick introduction and we'll get started. Welcome to today's Museums from Your Home live stream presented by the University of Alabama Museums. My name is Rebecca Johnson, and I'm the Communication Specialist for UA Museums. And today I'm joined by Allie Sorley, the Alabama Museum of Natural History's Education Outreach Coordinator. And Allie, I see we have a guest with us today. Would you like to introduce her?
Yeah, so this is Monica Watkins. She is the director of the Arboretum for the University of Alabama, and she's here to talk to us today a little bit about some trees and about the Arboretum.
Yeah, that's very exciting. Yeah, it looks like a beautiful day out there, so that is awesome to see.
Good morning.
Well, thank you for joining us today. And so while we are broadcasting here on Facebook and YouTube on the UA Museum's YouTube channel, feel free to ask any questions that you might have. And remember, this is all live, so anything can happen. So hang in there with us in case we have any internet connectivity issues, which can happen due to everybody using the internet a little more these days. So just hang in there and be patient with us in case we have any issues. So now that we've gotten that all out of the way, Allie, how should we get started today?
Yeah, I think Monica and I are kind of get started on our talk about trees in a second. But before we do that, I think I mentioned that Monica was at the Arboretum. And before we get into trees, Monica, do you want to just introduce the Arboretum a little bit and yourself and talk a little bit about what it is?
Sure. So the Arboretum is a tree museum. We have a living collection. So we think of museums as a space for collections, and our specimens are alive. So we have trees that are planted. We have trees from around the world, trees that are native to Alabama and the United States, but also places like China. We also have native forest. We have trails through the forest, and we have vegetable garden, flower garden areas with 60 acres at the Arboretum. If you're not familiar with the Arboretum, some of the highlights, the favorite places for people to visit are the tree platform, which we're going to attempt to go to the tree platform today. Hopefully our internet signal on the cell phone works out. We have an amphitheater. It's small but beautiful, and we might make it over there. And I want to get us maybe the end of today over to the community garden because we've been sending produce to the food bank. We're trying to keep our community garden going right now, and we can talk more about that later. So the Arboretum is an affiliate of UA Museums. We're actually housed by in the Department of Biological Sciences, so we're directly part of the department. And that's in the College of Arts and Sciences. So a little bit about me.
Yes, please.
Okay. I don't want to just lecture.
No, we want to learn about you.
So I am a native of Mississippi. I moved to Alabama to attend the University of Alabama, and I've married in. So roll tide.
Roll Tide.
I'm a big Alabama fan, as is my family. And I earned my undergraduate degree here. So I have a bachelor's degree in biology, and then I have a master's degree from the University of Georgia in forest ecology.
Oh, that's great. So it sounds like you guys have a lot going on.
We do.
There's a lot happening.
We do.
And I love that idea of it being a tree museum. I think that's
Right.
I don't know, I just love that that's how Arboretum sort of is thought of and approached, I guess, is the idea of a tree museum, which is
Tree museum.
We think about that often, but that's really cool.
It is. It is. You know, I'm trying to remember the name of the song. There's a classic song that says it's the one where you cut down the trees and put them in a museum so everyone could see them. We have a living museum. It's important. Our botanical collections are, where we keep that going for the future. Habitat destruction is a problem. Deforestation is a problem. We're worried about losing species in natural areas. And in an arboretum, we can keep those species alive.
Yeah, and I think we just found, I think there was a comment that came up that said the song is Big Yellow Taxi.
Thank you. I have it in my head, but I'm trying to remember all the lyrics. Yeah.
I think that might have been an assist from Rebecca. So thanks, Rebecca.
Thank you, Rebecca. The Taste Paradise. Put up a parking lot. That one.
Yes, that one.
And there's a line where they talk about a tree museum, and every time I say that the Arboretum is a tree museum, like that song just plays in my head.
I mean, how can you not have a song tree museum? Like, you know what I mean? Tree museum. It rhymes already.
Right. So we have trees. We recently got our accreditation, so we're a level 2 accredited arboretum.
Yay!
This is a program through the Morton Arboretum. They coordinate with the American Public Gardens Association and Botanical Gardens Conservation International. And we went through a process where we did an inventory to make sure that we had labeled trees. So we have specimens that are labeled. I did mention before that we have greenhouses. So some of our trees are actually in the greenhouse. Trees that in the winter would not be able to survive outdoors. We bring them into the greenhouse and we have heating there. So we have a palm tree, we have an avocado tree, we have several citrus trees, a lemon tree. So we actually have trees. They're small trees, but we have trees that are in the greenhouse.
That's really cool. That's really neat. And congrats on the accreditation. I know that was probably a lot of hard work.
It was
hard work.
We got that and we haven't done a lot of press on it yet because we got it all right around the same time that everyone was shutting down, and that was just more important. So here in the next month or two, we'll probably start promoting that.
That's great. And I was just thinking about it before I forget to mention. So sometimes we have people who are watching these live streams that aren't necessarily from Tuscaloosa, that are from other places around the state. So I think we should mention that the Arboretum that we're talking about, I know it's affiliated with UA, but UA happens to have properties like in other places too. But the Arboretum does happen to be in Tuscaloosa. So just so that we make sure, if you guys, once things settle down and get back to something, whatever it's going to be after, the Arboretum is something that once it's safe and is open, they could come visit in Tuscaloosa.
Right. I've had people asking me, I mean, it's at least once a week. When are you going to open? They want to be out here. And I actually, it was really hard for me to close, but we needed to because of the situation. And we're not the only ones that are closed. Moundville is closed. There's University Recreation. You know, we have university properties are closed right now. And the university is, you know, as they work on guidelines for us so that we can safely reopen, we'll be reopening. I hope that's soon, but I don't have a date right now.
Right.
Generally, our hours would be 8 a.m. to sunset, and we have free admission. So, you know, it's a service to the public that we provide education and recreation. It's part of our teaching, research, and service mission, the Arboretum, you know, as part of the university.
So I know that I am a frequent Arboretum user. I don't know how do I take advantage of the Arboretum a lot. I'm there all the time.
Yeah.
So I personally very much looking forward to when the Arboretum is open and back, and we can all safely be in nature in this city, which I love.
You know, there's some areas, I think some people are probably wondering, like, why are we closed and other places are open? And what you said, you know, we're in the city, so the city had some more stringent restrictions than other areas that are further out. We're concerned about, you know, concentrations of people and not being able to keep that social distancing that's required to not spread coronavirus.
Absolutely. Okay, so what do you think? Do you think we should get into a talk about trees?
Yes, let's do trees. That's why they're here, right? They want to hear about trees.
Tree museum, we got to hear about trees. So, all right. I know this sounds silly, maybe, but it's a very basic question. But what is a tree?
Good question. What is a tree? So a tree has woody tissue. So it has that structural element. Herbaceous plants don't have woody tissue. So what I mean by woody tissue is that tissue that gives it the structure to be able to stand up and to be perennial. Hang on, my camera's trying to go out. There. Sorry. And generally with a tree, we think of it as a single stem. And this is one of those things, scientists like to argue about things. They don't always agree on a definition. But generally we think of a tree as a single stem that has that woody tissue. There are shrubs that have multiple stems. And so that's, you know, the difference between them. When you actually take a dendrology class, I think this was titled as a dendrology information. So dendrology is the study of woody plants. So there's also vines that are woody and shrubs that are woody, as well as trees. So when we talk about a tree, we're talking about that single stem that has woody tissue.
Excellent. Thank you. I've always wondered, you know, you look at them, but you don't. I'm sorry, there's the cat.
Hi, kitty.
I kept watching her come closer and closer, and I thought, she's going to turn. She's going to jump off the desk.
She wants to learn about trees. Cats like trees.
They do love trees. Anyway, back to trees and not to cats. But I think it's not really, I've learned in the last couple of weeks, especially through these live streams, that there's a lot of things that you look at and I don't know, I don't want to say take for granted, but you don't really think about the specifics of, and I think trees are one of those too. You know, you look at trees, and I guess, you know, we could all sort of come up with descriptive words to describe a tree versus a shrub or a bush or something, but it's nice to have a definition.
Right.
Just, it's interesting to see, you know, we can appreciate them in a different light now that we have their definition.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so speaking of that, can we get a little bit into the anatomy of trees? Because I think they're really
Sure.
interesting. And another thing we don't really think about. I think we have a really great image while we talk about this.
Yes. So when I say woody tissue, this will help us understand that.
Okay, so there we go. All right, so let's talk a little bit about some of this anatomy. So I think we're all familiar with the, right? Because the bark is the outside part.
Right. So, you think about what do you learn in basic botany? Trees that hold xylem and phloem, what do those mean? That's important when we talk about what makes this woody tissue and what makes it into a tree. So the sapwood, you think of sap, what does that make you, what does that remind you of? What do you think sap is?
Like sticky.
Yeah, like sticky. Okay, so the sapwood is where the phloem is. I always think phloem food because it's that F sound, the PH of the phloem. Okay, so the sapwood is the sticky part. So that's where the tree is transporting the sugars, just like any other plant would have phloem. Okay, and then you've got something called heartwood there.
Oh. Can you say that one more time?
Can you hear my train? The train's here.
Yes.
It's like a real field trip to the Arboretum. We're right next to the train track. Just like Moundville.
Yes.
Train track.
Oh, is it still training?
No, a little bit, not so bad. It's the horn that's the worst, not the rumbling.
All right, do you mind repeating that? I'm so sorry. Oh,
you there?
Yeah, do you mind repeating it? I think the train horn happened at the same time.
Sure. So the sapwood is sticky, right? And that's where the food flows through in the phloem. And then the heartwood is in the middle, and the heartwood is, I'm trying to look at the diagram so we can explain it. There's the bark, the cambium, the sapwood. This diagram is not fantastic. But so the cambium is actually between the sapwood and the heartwood. And just next to the cambium is where the xylem is. And the xylem is really what makes the structure of the tree, the xylem and the heartwood. That's where it gets woody. And it has things like lignin in it that make it harder and last longer than an herbaceous plant. So the heartwood is the dead part of the xylem. Now, what flows through the xylem, Ellie?
Say again?
What flows through the xylem in a plant?
Sugars?
No, we said that was the phloem, right? Because it's phloem food.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Okay, so what flows through the xylem?
Water?
Water, okay? How if you were going to engineer, okay, an energy producing structure that you think about the physiology, you think about the engineering of what it is to be a tree. What are the parts it needs? Well, its leaves are solar collectors, right? They're trying to get the sun, but they also have to take in the carbon dioxide. And then there's a chemical reaction. It's a chemical process there that happens through photosynthesis. And then the tree is getting water down from the roots. It's got to get water up to those leaves. So it's got to have a really solid structure to go up the xylem. That water is going to go up. And they're kind of, you can think of them like pipes, going up to the system of tubing, right, to go up to the leaves, so that every part of the tree, gets water. If a plant or a tree, if it's dry, its leaves are going to get droopy because they don't have enough water. You put water on it, and it soaks that water up, and the water travels up to get to the leaves.
That's so. All right. So let me ask you this. I have a tree with. See it?
Yeah.
So, okay.
I can see it.
Let's see if we can label the parts.
Okay.
Or not label, but point them out. Okay, so definitely bark is easy.
Yeah, bark is easy, and the bark, it keeps, you know, the tree grows right on the outside, so that sapwood is where it's growing and getting bigger, and then that xylem is dying and creating the heartwood in the middle. So in the very middle is going to be your heartwood, and that's the oldest and strongest part. Woodworkers really like heartwood because it lasts a long time. And you know, when you're using a tree for lumber, you need to have good heartwood on it.
Okay.
So there's bark on the outside.
Yep.
Right. Okay. What else are you seeing?
And then so the this would be the sapwood.
Yeah, the sapwood's going to be towards the outside.
Okay.
And I don't know if you can see the rings super well on your camera.
This is a tough one for the ring to show the rings on the camera. I was thinking about that. Yeah. Oh wait, no, we can see them a little bit, but
when we go on our hike, I've got some fresh trees, and we'll try to look at one there to see the rings. We might be able to count the rings. I'm not sure if we'll be able to count the rings.
So I think one of the interesting things is that we're talking about trees growing from here, and then you said the middle part is the dead, but the strongest.
The dead is in the middle. Yeah, and I don't know if that's counterintuitive or not, but people probably can't guess where it's living. It's not the bark. You know, the bark is not itself alive. It's
right.
You know, it's like a dead skin layer, but just under it is alive.
And then, see, I think that's interesting. I think maybe sometimes we think trees grow out, like spread out.
From the inside out. Yeah. Yeah. Right. Probably because we're kind of like that. You know, we have organs on the inside. We're not dead on the inside, but it's kind of like there's skeleton in the middle.
That's really kind of neat.
Yeah.
I love that. Okay. Oh, learning so much, Monica. I like it. So you talked about the growth rings, and we'll talk about them in a second, but the growth rings really do designate growth, or they do indicate growth?
Sure, yeah. And on some trees, you can even see the difference between the seasons in the growth rings. There's different sizes of the rings, different colors. So like you can actually trace like the history of the climate through trees. It's really very interesting. There's you know, dendrochronologists, it's a whole area of study to be able to interpret tree rings.
When I first learned about the tree rings being like, because a lot of time, maybe we'll see it when we go on a hike, but there's like the dark one and the light one, you know?
Yeah.
And some are thicker and thinner. And when I first learned about that, I think I was just amazed because I hadn't really gotten into the study of trees very much when I was a kid, but just to think about, because I think we always think like one ring equals 1 year, but we got to think about it as seasons, right? So it's not just
and you'll see like more in forests that have more distinct seasons. So most of our eastern forests in the eastern United States, we have those seasons. So we're talking, you know, spring, summer, winter, fall. You know, you'll see those patterns in the tree ring. If you go somewhere that has that doesn't have as clear distinct seasons or has a different seasonality, you won't see the tree rings the same way that you see them in a forest that has seasons like what we're familiar with.
So that's because I am personally from Florida, and Florida has 2 seasons. It's either really, really hot and green, or everything's dead. So I wonder right. We don't have anything in between.
Yeah, so Florida's more tropical. You know, in the tropics, you're not gonna see the tree rings, and some trees don't really have tree rings.
That's really kind of neat. Yeah. So I meant to show you too, but I have on the tree that I brought, I had this to show the inside of the bark, that sapwood that's right there.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
And we can talk about it when we get on the hike again too. Sorry to go back to it.
No, that's okay. And I mean, you know, Allie, what you're doing, it's like you're dissecting a tree. I mean, what's more exciting about biology than doing a dissection?
That is really, yeah, you're right.
How'd
And
you learn?
exactly. You gotta take it apart sometime.
Live tree dissections. UA Museum's live stream.
Okay, so do you think it might be time to go on our hike? We can maybe talk about some of the trees we find. Oh, wait. Well, if we're going to talk about some of the trees we can find in Alabama, I think you had some neat guides or something you wanted to show us. Or is that now?
I'm going to take a couple of guides along with me. First, I'm going to show you my favorites. I use this for like every field trip where we talk about trees. I think it's actually out of print, but this is from our friends at Auburn. It's the Extension Service, the Alabama Cooperative Extension Service, published this. The key to common trees of Alabama. So the important part here is your tree identification key or dichotomous key. And it actually has a nice section in it that shows you leaf types. So you need to be able to know some basic botany to be able to identify your trees. So just like with other plants, there are compound leaves, simple leaves. It gets more complicated than that, of course. There's different shapes of leaves. You can have a linear shape. You can have a spatula shape. You can have lobes. You can have teeth. The edges of the leaves are important. All of these things are important. So this is really simple and handy because it's, you know, Alabama specific. Also have a guide that's more for children, but you know, if you want to keep it simple and just start learning, these are good for adults too. So this is a Peterson guide, and it's kind of the same thing. This is more general though. It's not Alabama specific. This is one that I really like. It's a pocket guide for trees and wildflowers. So you can literally like stick it in your shirt pocket and go. And it doesn't have that dichotomous key. It has really beautiful pictures. It has the scientific names, but it doesn't have all those details. So you can't see it, but you can find it easily. And then I have just a general Eastern forest. I was telling Allie earlier that I forgot my favorite guides at home because I use them so much. They're sitting at home. But we've got some labeled trees that we can see today. I think we want to kind of have fun for a little bit, so we're going to try to make it a tree platform first.
So we have a question, Monica. Does the Arboretum sell field brochures? Do they sell them?
We don't have sales right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you know, I just found that the guide to the trees that you're talking about, and I'm sending the extension service has a PDF of it online.
Good, I
and I'm
thought
just
they did.
sending, yeah. And I know that one is one of my favorites. So it's a staple for us when we do lessons at the museum. That's our go-to one always. And it's a great one. And there's also a new book that's coming out or has come out or something, but it's The Trees of Alabama. It's a nature guide, a Goss nature guide. And that one's a really good one too, a field guide. But as far as, you know, something that's lightweight, like you said, and easy to pull around, that extension service one is a lot of fun.
Yeah. That's the easiest.
Okay, let's see if we can make this hike happen.
Okay.
I think we can.
I got my bag. Got my water. Actually, it's Gatorade today. It's a little yellow. I like lemon lime.
It's got electrolytes. The plants love it. I'm just, that's a really good theocracy thing. Anyway. Please don't feed your plants Gatorade. That was not where we're going with this. They make their own sugars. They don't need our help.
Okay, I'm going to get out from under the pavilion and then switch to the cell signal, so we'll see how that goes.
All right.
Okay, sounds good.
So we'll take Monica out until she's ready to go, and we'll join her back on her walk as she goes. So we'll keep an eye on her until she's ready. So it does look like we might have to ask Monica about this. We got a comment that says there is a redwood there at the Arboretum. So that's something that we'll have to ask her about that. and see what else is out there. So Allie, you've probably been out to the Arboretum more than I have. I think I've only been out there twice. So
Yeah.
what are your favorite parts about the Arboretum?
So so she had mentioned so the tree platform is one of my very favorites. And whenever we do hikes there and we do programs, the Arboretum is kind enough to let us, we work together with them, the Natural History Museum and the Arboretum, we work together quite often. And so they let us bring kids in groups there for hikes. So the tree platform is, and as a personal favorite too, the tree platform is great. The wildflower garden is amazing. And they have this really great maze that you can go through. It's like a maze on the ground and you can walk through it. It's really kind of neat. But I'm also a huge fan of the amphitheater. It's a beautiful stone structure. I say structure, it's flat, but it's like a disc kind of these really pretty stones that are laid around. And then they have some benches that you can watch. And I think at one point in time, they were even doing like poetry readings or things out there that students were doing. And I'm pretty sure, although I hope that I'm not saying this incorrectly, but I'm pretty sure that some of the classes at UA that are poetry or English or writing related have used that space to as part of their classes too, as a place to I don't know, like showcase, I guess, what they've written. So that's I don't think that the amphitheater gets enough love, because maybe it does, but it's just one of my favorite places. It's beautiful and it's an easy one to get to. But I think honestly, my favorite part about the Arboretum is just the trail. There are so many trails. Like she said, it was 60 acres, I believe is what she said. You can just, not get lost because it's really easy to navigate, but like lose yourself intentionally for a little bit, go out and lose yourself in nature, lose yourself in trees, but still be in the heart of Tuscaloosa, which is in the heartwood, if you will, of Tuscaloosa, which is kind of incredible, I don't know. It's one of my favorite places to go. I am a strong believer in nature and needing nature breaks and nature therapy breaks a little bit. I believe they work for me a lot. They're really great. And the Arboretum, once it's open, I will be, and we are all, and it's safe to go there with people. Like she said, making sure that we don't have groups of people. Anyway, once it's safe and when it's open, I'm very much looking forward to coming back. And maybe once it's safe for us to go, maybe you and I can go on a hike together there.
That would be awesome. I would love that. I went a couple of months ago, maybe it was beginning of March. It feels like it's been so long, but it was really beautiful the day that we went out there, and I had such a good time. I'd really like to go back. It would be such a great place to have like a outdoor classroom out there. That would be so awesome. So that is something to look forward to when it does reopen. So it does look like we have Monica back, so I'm going to bring her in. All right.
Hey.
So, hi. I'm still in the pavilion. I didn't want y'all to miss anything on the hike.
That's a lovely pavilion you have there.
It's really beautiful today. The pavilion is the oldest part of our structures, our oldest structure. It's been here since the 50s.
Oh, wow. It sounds like the Arboretum has been around for quite a while.
1958 is the official date.
Wow.
Over 60 years.
That's great. And now they have I know it's had some stewardship of some really wonderful people that have been taking care of it since 1958. And I know that you and your staff are just wonderful, wonderful, wonderful people.
Well, it's a great place to work, but it's not an easy place to work. We are always, doing things outside and trying to manage the property as well as our program.
Wow, I'm so getting lost in those trees behind you. What a beautiful sight. It's really nice.
Let's see, there are some things blooming. The leucoquae, I'm going to
So we might have to see if Monica's connected. There we go. Okay.
See if I can do that.
Yeah, you should be
in
able to
here.
turn your phone camera around. Yeah, we'll see if we can get that to work.
I think, yeah, we did some
Flip, there it
testing
is.
of this the other day and it worked out okay, but I think there it is.
There we go.
Yeah. I think sometimes the connection gets a little, like there's a little lag in it. So what are we looking at, Monica?
Wait. Or dog hobble, it probably has like 10 other names. It's more of a shrub, so you can see where it's growing here. It's just really beautifully blooming.
Oh yeah, because it has more than just one stem.
Yeah, so it's got multiple stems. So I would call this a shrub instead of a tree.
Nice.
And the flowers are like a little cup, and this is in the Ericaceae. So if you are familiar with blueberry flowers, they look kind of like that. That's probably the thing most people might have seen the flowers on a blueberry plant if you do some gardening at home or things like that.
They kind of, from this picture, they kind of look like popcorn hanging on a tree.
They look really cool, and they're like big and overgrown right now. We have some things that are a little bit unkempt. We don't have all our volunteers. We depend on our student workers and our volunteers to help us. So we just got a couple of volunteers back in the last week to help us with the community garden, but it's really just myself and Zach, who's the caretaker.
Oh wow, you guys have a lot to do. Hey, so we had someone that had a comment that said there was a redwood tree in the Arboretum.
It's not very big. It's probably not very healthy right now. So when trees are somewhere that's foresters call it off-site, when they're planted somewhere that's not ideal conditions for them, they don't really grow with the same vigor. But we do have a redwood.
That's really cool.
Not big and impressive, but it's there, so you can look at it and see. It's a redwood, yeah. Something that's kind of similar. That's a conifer. We'll see here in just a minute. We're going to look at a hemlock.
Oh, neat.
Fuga canadensis.
Hey, can I ask you a tree question real quick? Just so we can have some clarity.
Okay.
So we hear the word deciduous a lot. Can you help me understand deciduous?
Sure. Deciduous just means it loses its leaves.
Oh, okay, that's great. So there's deciduous and then evergreen?
Evergreen, yeah. So evergreen trees are not always, but often conifers. So here,
okay.
This is an eastern hemlock.
Oh, it's beautiful. It's huge too.
It is. It's got some nice, pretty bright green. That's the new growth. So hemlocks will grow in Tuscaloosa. They aren't naturally occurring in Tuscaloosa. The easternmost point for hemlocks is in the Bankhead National Forest, or the southernmost point is in the Bankhead National Forest in northern Alabama. But they will grow here, and we have several on the property. Former UA president Roger Sayers told me he planted at least one of the hemlocks. He was Arboretum Director for a little while.
Oh, neat. So
trivia, Arboretum trivia. 2 past presidents of the university have been Arboretum Director.
So since you said it was a tree museum, is it something that you're actively finding specimens for, or is it something you are, whatever's there is what you're using as your exhibit?
That's a good question. It's a bit of both. So there are plants that are of concern in the Southeast, and those are one of our priorities. to have in the collection, to cultivate, to add to the collection. And then we have natural forested areas. But we also, we are going through a process right now we've done a recent inventory of the collection, and we are making decisions about what we would like to acquire. Just
great.
like other museums, Arboretum Botanical Gardens, they share specimens. Ours just happen to be alive. So when we're ready to add to our collection, we talk to our friends at Atlanta Botanical Garden or Birmingham Botanical Gardens or Morton Arboretum, and we find out who can share those plants with us. We are in the process of getting more involved with the Alabama Plant Conservation Alliance. Most of that work is being done through Auburn's Davis Arboretum. So I would imagine at some point we'll be sharing some collections with them, working with them more closely.
So another thing that I always think of when I think of museums is collections, but I also think of research opportunities with the collections. Is that something that happens at the Arboretum?
Yes, actually, we aren't doing a lot of conservation research right now, but that's one of the things we'd like to participate more in. Here's our tree with nice rings, you can see.
Yeah, you can see the rings really, really well.
An oak. Yeah. This is pretty fresh. So it's been probably 3 weeks ago now. There was a tornado that knocked out a lot of people's, or tornadic activity that knocked out a lot of people's power and internet in the Tuscaloosa area, like north part of Tuscaloosa. It was the week after that, there was another storm, and that's when we lost a couple of trees.
Can you go in close one more time?
Yeah, we had one of the trees that came down, knocked out our power and internet at the Arboretum.
Oh,
and these are oak trees that fell. Yeah, and it wasn't straight line winds. It wasn't the wind, I think, that knocked them over. It was the amount of rain that we had. These trees were already kind of weak.
Yeah.
Half of the tree or more, more or less, could be underground. You can't just put a stick, stand up a stick in the ground. It's got to have a foundation. The roots are the foundation of that tree.
And we were talking about how there are two rings essentially, right? So there's the light part that we're seeing that is like.
Yeah, you can see them okay here. Yeah.
Yeah. So we can see the light part, but also in between the rings that we're seeing is also a ring, right? So like the darker area.
So, there's going to be, during the growing season, we call it, there's a lot of activity going and it's going to be growing more, and those will be lighter colored. And then as it slows down, it gets darker.
That's really neat.
That's pretty nice. This is recent. It's still got some leaves on it that are green. That's our.
Thank you for showing us that one.
Sure.
Are we headed to the tree platform? This looks familiar.
We are headed to the tree platform.
I was just telling them how much I love the tree platform. Is one of my favorites. Oh my gosh! Look at that.
Guys, this is what we did yesterday, Allie and I.
And we loved it so much.
This is YouTube. This is big leaf magnolia. This one doesn't have a bloom on it here, but it's got those big, beautiful leaves. The diversity of trees in Alabama is very high. Magnolia diversity is actually really high. This is deciduous magnolia. So these leaves will fall off of the magnolia. Sometimes we have people that want to collect them. They're kind of fun for floral arrangements. I think they're most fun to give to little kids. to play with.
The Arboretum does have some beautiful magnolia trees too.
So the leaf is like, I can't do it justice with the scale on the camera, but it's over a foot long on this tree.
Oh my gosh, that is a big leaf magnolia. I get why they call it that.
Big leaf. Yeah, and they have beautiful flowers. Smell kind of lemon custardy. Yeah, they're just gorgeous, and they're very tropical feeling, tropical looking. A lot of the plants and trees in the southeast are kind of, they have relatives that are in Central and South America, and part of the reason for our diversity has to do with that history, the geologic history of the state. You probably know a lot about that, Allie.
I feel like it always comes back to the geologic history. Like everything always, a lot of what we've talked about in these live streams ends up coming back to the geologic history.
Why don't you review that a little for everybody? I'm going to show you some plants.
Oh, yeah. Wait, before I do, can you tell us what we're looking at too, once you get there? Ooh.
This is oak leaf hydrangea.
Yes,
They just started blooming in the last week. So there's other things that have stopped blooming, but they're blooming now. And the leaf is lobed like an oak. So that's why it has the name.
Of it.
There was some kind of little insect flying around. We might be able to find some insects on one of these flowers.
I will, but one of my other favorite things to do at the Arboretum is I think it's an excellent opportunity for some nature photography as well.
Yes. Yes.
Beautiful place for that. Because it is so diverse and the collection is so varied. Oh, they're beautiful. They're blooming really well.
Part of our mission here at the Arboretum is to represent the diversity of the state of Alabama. So we have high diversity in the state, so we have to have high diversity in our collection.
Hey, we have a really interesting question that just came up. Do you have any issues, or are there any issues with invasive species of plants, and how do you deal with it? How do you control for it?
Yes, we definitely have invasive species. The one that pops in my mind first is Chinese privet. We have been doing a lot of manual removal, so using physical methods to remove it with the help of volunteers, primarily students, university students from UA. The Center for Service and Leadership has sent us lots of volunteers. We've coordinated with them on many work days. Privet pools, some people might have participated or heard that. So when they're small, you can pull the plants up.
Okay.
We even have a tool that you can, using leverage, pull it up. So you don't have to just pull it out of the ground yourself. It actually holds onto the stem for you, and you pull it up with that tool. If we end up doing one of these live streams on invasive plants, we might be able to actually pull some.
Oh, that'd be great.
That would be fun. So privet, we can also use herbicide on it. And you can, as long as you put it directly on the plant where you cut and you do it the right time of year, it's very effective and very safe. But you need to know what you're doing and do it properly.
Yeah. So this is the tree platform?
Yes.
Oh, I just love this place. It's beautiful. And I think this is going to sound maybe a little strange, but another one of my favorite parts about this tree platform is the sounds that you get. So when you get up there, not only is it beautiful, but when a nice breeze is going through, it sounds amazing. It's just
the wind, the birds.
Yes.
We'll probably should just be quiet for everyone for a little bit.
Okay. Once we get you settled too, maybe some of our birding watchers can identify some of the birds that they're hearing, because I just heard some chirping.
That would be great. I think I heard a red-tailed hawk.
Hey, Rebecca, can we go to just Monica's video real quick? Great, Monica. Thank you so much. So, I was thinking about it too when we were mentioning the birds and the insects, that not only, I mean, it is a tree museum, but along with living trees and living exhibits come the ecosystems that they're a part of, right? So you get a lot, not only do you get the plant side, but you get a lot of the animal life that they support.
Yes. And it's all interconnected.
It's all
One
together.
of the things I was thinking about with roots, there's been more and more study of below ground ecology about how trees talk to each other through their roots.
Yes.
And many species depend on fungal partners, mycorrhizae, in order to get the nutrients out of the soil, but then the mycorrhizae can actually be a connection between different trees. They can pass nutrients through the mycorrhizae to the other trees. It's really fascinating science.
I heard a really good multi-part podcast about that not too long ago, actually. And fascinating is a very good word for that. I was glued, my ears were glued to my headphones. I couldn't stop listening to it. It's incredible.
Yes.
This has been, what's that? So one of my favorite trees is the tree that the platform is built around, that one that's right behind you. I think it's such a neat feature that, the platform was built to be in the space that it's in. Oh, look how it's so big. It's beautiful.
This is a white oak. It has platy bark. So it's got the deck built around it. I think it had grown enough. Last summer, Zach did a little bit of work to open up the hole a tiny bit bigger because it is alive. And it's got these big plates. So, they're pieces here. Sometimes people pull them off. That's probably not good for it. We'd rather you don't, pull the bark off of the trees in our museum or write on our trees. Every once in a while, we get a little graffiti.
No, the trees are art adornments on them. Oh, it's beautiful.
White oak is a very common tree for us. So this part of the Arboretum is oak hickory forest. We have a lot of hardwoods. Pines have softer wood. They don't have as much of that the structure or their woody materials that it lasts longer for the hardwoods. This is a pretty sour wood here. So I think I said that we've got like 10 minutes left. I think I said we would go to the community garden.
Yeah, can we get there? We have like maybe 5 minutes left.
Yeah, I think we can get there, and I can just show people what it looks like before we're done. And while we're walking, we can keep talking a little bit. I actually have I wanted to share. There's another train.
Yes, and we can hear your train friend again.
Yeah.
Or another train friend.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, Pam Sloan was saying that the Tuscaloosa County Master Gardeners volunteer at the Arboretum sometimes, or they do.
They do. Ann Hewitt, who coordinates for us, was just out yesterday, and Ann planted peppers and tomatoes. Our
Ooh.
students, university students, through the Center for Service and Leadership, they come volunteer weekly during the academic year, and the students had started the seeds in the greenhouse before spring break, and our tomato plants got really big, and our pepper plants got big, and so it was time to plant them. And Ann came by yesterday and planted some, so we'll look at those when we get to the garden.
Are there any other ways that the Arboretum, I mean, I know that it's a part of the university, but are there any ways that the Arboretum interacts with the university's main campus, either through classes or other things?
Yes. We are a common site for field trips for classes like dendrology, forest ecology, environmental studies classes, but even sometimes classes like in the literature and arts. If they want to be inspired by nature, they will come and visit the Arboretum.
You're also a common and beloved field trip destination for museum classes too.
Yes, school field trips. We do a lot of interaction with the community through having local schools, community organizations, the OLLI group, for the Osher Lifelong Learning Institute.
Yeah.
Their groups come out as well.
And I know that, I mean, I don't know really what's going to happen this year, but in the past, you've done some really incredible community events as well, like Arboretum and other really wonderful ones.
I want to show you this. This is native coral honeysuckle. Just has to be blooming here on the trail. This is our good, happy honeysuckle. Yes, we do events for the community. That depending on which event it is, they might also be fundraisers for us. Arboretum,
Okay.
we've been doing that as outreach. Dr. Michael McCain, he's actually curator of the herbarium, so he's affiliated with the museum. He is our faculty representative from the Department of Biological Sciences, and he helps me out a lot. And Arboretum was his brainchild, and he's worked really hard on that. It's trick or treat trail, but it's education outreach. So we work in a lot of science. There's hands-on activities on the pavilion, as well as kids get to collect candy. Hopefully, we will be able to do that again this year. We don't know yet.
Yeah. We were thinking the same thing. We're not quite sure what it's going to look like for some of our big public events either, but we'll all figure it out together, right? At the same time. Oh, we're in the garden. Man, that was fast.
Here we are coming up on the garden. Yep. Yeah, it's not too far from the tree platform.
You are very fast.
There's the children's garden. Yep. I got so much I want to show you. We can't get to it all. It's like any other field trip with the Arboretum. It's like, well, do you have another hour?
Ooh, I feel like we're getting a behind the scenes tour.
Compost. You are. We should do this more often. This is fun. So here's our little pepper plants. Oh, I'm going to get the shadow out of it. Little bell pepper plants. So we can come back in a couple weeks and check on them. And some tomato plants. And this is what's left of the Brussels sprouts. I think we have to pull them up. They never made sprouts for us. Gardens are very dependent on the weather. You don't always get exactly what you think. But before I go, I need to do a shout out to Augie Watkins, who collected this petrified wood at Tanglewood.
Oh!
Bishop Biological Station. Tanglewood is another Department of Biological Sciences property. It's a field station. And we went down there to talk with the Alabama Wildflower Society, it's been a couple months ago now, about the holly collection there. And Augie went on a hike with his sisters and his dad and found petrified wood. It's actually like partially petrified. We actually have, this is a small piece. We have several larger pieces, but this I could stick in my pocket.
Very cool. Yeah. All right, Monica, I think it might be time for us to have to go. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
We wanted to see.
Allie told me it wouldn't be that hard to fill an hour.
Well, this was... Yeah, it goes by very quickly. Well, this has been really awesome, and it's making me jealous of wanting to be outside and wanting to be in nature. And so I highly recommend the Arboretum to everybody when things get a little more back to normal and things sort of get better. Definitely go check out the Arboretum, because it's a wonderful place to explore nature and be among trees and look at the trees and the flowers and the plants in the garden, I guess. So that is really, really awesome. Well, I guess we'll wrap this up and wrap this live stream up today. So we will be doing this every weekday, Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. And each day will feature a different aspect of UA museums. Tomorrow, we're going to be coming back to the Alabama Museum of Natural History's Facebook page. And I think we're going to be learning about archaeology and paleontology and maybe what some of those differences are. So definitely go to museums.ua.edu/museums from your home. If you have any questions about our live streams or any of our video content or anything that we've been doing through these initiatives, you can check out our educational resources there. We have educational resources from Discovering Alabama, the Alabama Museum of Natural History, and Moundville Archaeological Park. We even have a coloring book. If you want to take some time to do some coloring, we have a UA Museums Collections coloring book. Color Our Collections is the official name. So you can definitely check all of that out there. If you're liking anything that we're doing here and want to support what we do at UA Museums, you can go to give.ua.edu/museums. And if you would want to keep up with everything that we're doing and have everything in one place, you can go and subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/UA Museums. That will alert you every time we go live. You'll also be able to see all of our isolation observations and all of our Moundville Monday videos and everything we've been putting out. Everything is right there on the YouTube channel, so you can definitely go and do that. All right. Well, thank you to everybody who hung out with us at the Arboretum today. And thank you to everybody who will hang out with us at the Arboretum later. Thank you for visiting UA Museums from your home. Hope everybody has a great day.
Bye, everyone.